By all appearances, Miguel Cortés Miranda was the epitome of success, an intelligent scientist who spoke three languages, a world traveler, and someone who proudly supported feminism and animal rights. But it was all a lie. Behind that carefully curated image was a predator who had been getting away with murder for over a decade, until 2024, when his final attack exposed everything that he had been hiding. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing super well. Thank you all so much for being here and for supporting this channel. Today we're going to be talking about a dark one. We're going to be talking about what happened to the victims of 39-year-old Miguel Cortés Miranda, who was living a double life for over a decade. He blended right into society, and nobody ever suspected that he was hiding an evil secret. Authorities suspect that Miguel may have murdered at least 20 women since 2012, women who were his friends, co-workers, or people that he just met and brought home. We will be going over the victims' lives and how Miguel was finally caught. Sadly, this case may not end with justice being served, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. This one was just truly insane. I got so into the research for this case and it was truly scary. I mean, this was just an ordinary guy, someone that everyone thought was just a normal person living a normal life. But in reality, he was an evil person. Now, before we jump into the video, I do just want to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor for supporting this channel. Do you guys ever feel like someone's looking over your shoulder when you're online? Well, they kind of are. Your internet provider, advertisers, even the owner of the Wi-Fi that you're using can see what you're doing unless you're using ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is a virtual private network, basically a secure encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. It keeps your online activity private, your data safe, and even lets you access content from around the world that might be blocked where you live. In the United States, your ISP can legally sell your browsing history to advertisers. And in places like the UK or Australia, ISPs have to keep logs of the sites that you visit for up to 2 years. ExpressVPN encrypts 100% of your internet traffic, so your ISP, hackers, or even your boss, if you're using your work Wi-Fi, can't see a thing. It even hides your IP address, making it harder for advertisers, big tech companies, or just random people to track you. Now, if you're using public Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, at a hotel, or at an airport, well, that's kind of an easier way for a hacker to find you. Without encryption, it's so easy for someone to steal all of your emails, your passwords, or your credit card information. ExpressVPN wraps your data in best-in-class encryption that would take a hacker with like a supercomputer billions of years to finally crack. I love using ExpressVPN when I'm out at a coffee shop or just, working at a restaurant or at the airport, and I just feel safer knowing that ExpressVPN is on and I don't have to worry or stress out about who's snooping on my connection. And the fun part, ExpressVPN lets you change your location online. That means you can watch Netflix, Disney Plus, or any other streaming site from other countries, unlocking shows and movies that you didn't even know you were missing. Anytime I go to Mexico, I have to use ExpressVPN to watch my go-tos such as The Office or Grey's Anatomy. They've got the fastest speed, so streaming in HD is no problem. It's also impossible for them to store logs thanks to their trusted server technology that's been independently audited. You can also connect up to 8 devices at the same time, and they even have a built-in password manager called ExpressVPN Keys. Plus, their 24/7 live chat means that you can get help in seconds. Find out how you can get 4 months free by scanning the QR code on the screen, clicking the link in the description box down below, or by going to expressvpn.com/JackieFlores. A huge thank you to ExpressVPN for supporting this channel, and thank you to you guys for allowing me to get these special opportunities. Make sure to check everything linked down below, and with that, let's jump right into today's video. Now, to better understand this case, we need to go back to the very beginning. Miguel Cortés Miranda was born on October 25th, 1984 in Mexico City to his parents Miguel Cortés Jimenez, a university professor, and to his mother, Maria del Carmen, who was a stay-at-home mom. Now, not much is publicly known about his early years, but he said that he and his sister Claudia were victims of violence at the hands of their father. Out of fear, they were never able to report him, and they never received any sort of help. They just kind of lived with it. So that must have built up some anger inside Miguel. In middle school, signs of that anger showed through. He used to throw acid on cars to destroy the paint and burn various objects just to see what would happen. Now, at the time, maybe people saw that as like, oh, he's just being like a typical like young boy, like it's normal. But by the end of the video, I doubt that's the impression that you'll be left with. Now looking back on it, that behavior might have been a sign. As for Miguel's young adult life, it began in 2008 when he was still a student. That year, he got his first job at a lab called Consecal, where he analyzed food and water samples. In 2009, he officially graduated with a bachelor's degree in medical laboratory science, specializing in bacteriology and parasitology from the National School of Biological Sciences at the National Polytechnic Institute. In 2010, he landed a new job at a lab called Orthen in Iztacalco, where he was responsible for analyzing samples from across the country. Around that time, he moved into an apartment that his father suggested to him, just around the corner from the laboratory, so he lived very close to his work. Years later, that same apartment would become the scene of a horrifying investigation and his eventual arrest. But at the time, it was simply a practical move. From the outside, Miguel appeared impressive. He was working in the scientific field, he had good degrees, he spoke 3 languages, and traveled often. He also participated in animal rights, LGBTQ rights, and feminist marches, portraying himself as a socially conscious and progressive person. But things began to fall apart for him in 2013 when he was actually fired from Orthen Labs. After that, he decided to focus on his activism until early 2014 when he briefly returned to the lab world but was fired just a month into his new role. Following that, he did some temporary administrative jobs here and there, but never stayed anywhere for too long. Eventually, he got back into the scientific field with a position at ARJ Control Lab in Iztacalco. After some time there, he began working at his final job at a hospital laboratory. So that's a little bit about Miguel's professional life. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't really know much about his personal life besides a little bit about his upbringing, besides the fact that he had parents and a sister. That's basically all we know. Now, Miguel's professional life will come into play a little bit on, but overall, he just blended right into society by working well-respected jobs, by posting photos of his travels and vegan meals on social media, and sharing quotes about compassion and nonviolence, all of which was a facade. Behind closed doors, he was doing the exact opposite of what he was advocating for. He was doing something evil. Just last year, on Tuesday, April 16th, 2024, all of Miguel's secrets were exposed when he attacked his neighbor. 17-year-old Maria Jose Castillo Calles was alone in her apartment in Iztacalco, relaxing, and was going to get ready for her afternoon class later. Her mom, Cassandra, and her sister Fernanda had just left the apartment, and Miguel waited for them to leave. He knew that Maria was going to be home alone since he had observed her, stalked her, and knew that she didn't have class until later that afternoon. Cassandra was going to the corner store, so she'd only be gone a few minutes. And as for the sister Fernanda, I wasn't able to confirm where she was going to, but she was also going to be gone for just a couple of minutes. However, Miguel didn't know that. He thought that Cassandra and Fernanda were going to be gone for a much longer time. So Maria was completely alone in this apartment, and when Miguel entered her apartment, he came face to face with her. She yelled at him, demanding to know what he wanted, why was he here, while also trying to make him leave the house and call for help. He told her that he wasn't there to harm her, but later said that his mind went blank at that moment and he ended up cornering her and forcing her onto the bed. He wanted to R-word her, and as he did, Maria Jose kept screaming and trying to fight him off. Her screams grew louder and louder, and in response to this, Miguel began strangling her with his bare hands. When she lost consciousness, he went to the kitchen to find a plastic bag to suffocate her. He later claimed he didn't want to hurt her or even take her life, but in that moment, he panicked and believed that he had no other choice. Now, Maria Jose's mother, Cassandra, returned home mid-attack. Remember, she was just supposed to be gone a couple of minutes. She walked into her apartment, and that's when she saw someone attacking her daughter, who was semi-nude on her bed, and then realized that it was her neighbor of so many years. She knew Miguel. She tried to stop him, but he actually stabbed her multiple times in the back, neck, and abdomen. He also tried strangling her. Miguel later admitted that he was just so focused on eliminating the witness who had just caught him in the middle of this horrific act, but thankfully Cassandra survived. She later speaks about this in the media, and in her interviews you can actually see the scars on her neck from this horrible attack, and it's a nightmare what she went through. After she confronted Miguel and tried to save her daughter, she was so weak from the injuries that he caused and said that the wounds to her neck were so severe that she couldn't keep her head up, as it was hanging severely to the side. But she screamed as loud as she could while he tried escaping through the roof of the 4-story apartment building, and thankfully neighbors heard all of her screams and they actually caught Miguel. It was also around this time that Maria Jose's sister Fernanda arrived back at the apartment. She saw her mom covered in blood and she was just in complete shock shock. I mean, their day had started out just completely normal, just like any other day. Fernanda and her mom Cassandra just stepped out of the house for a couple of minutes, and when she came back, everything was different. Thankfully, like I said, Miguel was caught by the neighbors and he was arrested at the scene. Fernanda remembers the police asking her if she knew this man, and she was like, "Of course I know him. He's literally our neighbor." But she said that they never actually made contact with him, even though they were neighbors. It's not like they spoke to him or interacted with him. They would just see him come and go from his apartment, and she had no idea why he would do this, why he would attack her sister, why he would attack her mother. She was just in shock and she was just completely devastated. I mean, again, she just left for a few minutes, not knowing that that would be the last time that she would ever see her sister alive. Cassandra, her mom, was taken to a nearby hospital where she was fighting for her life due to the injuries and a perforated lung, but all she could think about was her daughter. The image in her mind was of her lying on the bed, no longer moving, semi-nude. Now, in the end, Maria Jose tragically passed away at the hospital where she was rushed to for help. Nothing could save her. It was just too late. She was only 17 years old, you guys, just so young, so full of life, and so just happy and looking forward to graduating from high school. She was even getting ready to take admission exams for 3 different universities and was so excited about her education. Her family describes her as just the sweetest girl on the planet, an angel, pure happiness. Her family's nickname for her was Majo or Pepe, and they talked about her with just so much love. She was just a month away from turning 18, and for her birthday, she had asked her stepdad, Ernesto, for a motorcycle. Riding together had always kind of been like their thing, and it was actually how they all got around, and it was just like a special part of their relationship. Ernesto was actually planning to surprise her with one as a gift, but he never got the chance to. It's heartbreaking to think about how she was right on the edge of adulthood, excited about her future, excited about university, excited about this next chapter of her life, when Miguel, this disgusting, evil man, just stole all of that from her. For what reason? Like, it just didn't make any sense. My heart also breaks about what Cassandra and Fernanda went through. I mean, Cassandra walked in on her daughter being killed. Like, imagine that being forever in your mind, and then also suffering injuries yourself, and then your other daughter, Fernanda, walking in on this chaos and walking in on this horror as well.
Yo encontré a Miguel adentro del cuarto de mi hija. Mi hija estaba tendida sobre la cama, semidesnuda, y él estaba encima de ella. Cuando lo sorprendo, le alcanzo a gritar: "¿Qué le hiciste?", porque yo me di cuenta que mi hija ya estaba muerta. Le alcancé a dañar la cara, pero me empezó a apuñalar. Yo tuve mucho miedo porque sabía que ya hasta ahí había llegado nuestra vida. Por alguna obra o un milagro logré sobrevivir al ataque, porque yo no me caí nunca. Todas las veces que Miguel me apuñaló, yo nunca me caí. Me tuvo que ahorcar para tumbarme. Perdí el conocimiento algún tiempo y después de eso yo logro despertar. Mi cuello estaba muy lastimado, la cabeza se iba de lado. Y logro abrir la puerta y decirle ya a la gente que estaba en mi puerto tocando quién fue. Yo le entregué a las autoridades a Miguel.
Maria Jose's biological father, Ricardo, demanded justice and that the person who harmed his little girl be punished. In the days that followed, neighbors and members of the community came together to honor her memory, decorating the sidewalk in front of her apartment with flowers, candles, and posters. Neighbors said that Maria Jose often took her 2 chihuahuas out to walk at night, and after, she would just sit on the sidewalk to use her phone and just kind of relax with like the night air. Neighbors were just so shocked to learn that Miguel, who had lived there for so many years and had been, Maria Jose's neighbor and just been this normal person, was capable of doing something so horrific. They honestly just felt very violated and angry. They thought he was a normal guy because he kind of just kept to himself and was quiet. No one could have imagined this evil side he was hiding. Now, Maria Jose's family later learned that Miguel had been obsessed with her for some time. Cassandra said that the knob to her apartment door became loose, and she believes that at one point Miguel entered the home and made a copy of their apartment keys that they had hanging on a wall. She says that would explain how Miguel got inside the apartment that morning without having to break in. He just simply used a copy of the keys that he had. So it's likely that he was watching Maria Jose's apartment door, waiting for the right moment to enter and just carry out his plan. So when he saw Cassandra and Fernanda leave that morning, he thought to himself, like, this is it. This is my perfect time to come in. Now, after Miguel was arrested, Maria Jose's family said that he looked at them with like a creepy grin, basically mocking them. He laughed in their faces and made obscene gestures, like he wasn't ashamed of what he had done. It was as if he was proud. He had absolutely no remorse. Authorities searched his apartment for more evidence after his arrest, and they found what they described as a house of horrors. They found at least 20 sets of human remains, which could belong to at least 7 women, hidden in boxes, bags, corners of his apartment, and in his freezer, along with 5 skulls, other bones, and tools that appeared to be used to dismember bodies, such as a saw. They also found bloodstains, surgical tools, chemical substances, cell phones, ID cards, women's clothing, CDs, 1 flash drive, and a few personal journals filled with disturbing writings. In one journal entry, Miguel wrote about how he was essayed by his father when he was a child, while his mother and his sister, who allowed it, were indifferent. It's believed that this trauma likely fueled a deep hatred towards women in him. His sister Claudia has said that she and Miguel did suffer violence at the hands of their father, but she has not commented on the alleged essay, so we just don't know for sure. Now, in other journal entries, he detailed different crimes that he had committed, one being an extremely disturbing one. He confessed to having killed his newborn daughter approximately 10 years ago. After ending her life, he disposed of her body, although the exact details of how he did it have not been publicly disclosed. So while that may or may not be true, he wrote it in his journal. Another entry he wrote was about an incident from his childhood. He wrote how, in a therapy session, he opened up about something that had happened back when he was in elementary school. He said that there was a girl who was really depressed because her parents were splitting up, and that she did have suicidal thoughts. So he decided to help her. In this journal, he wrote, quote, "I gathered everything in my house that had a poison symbol or the word toxic on it and put it in a jar. Then he gave the jar to the girl and told her that if she drank it, it would help her die. But the girl never went through with it, thankfully." Miguel wrote, quote, "I think I helped push those thoughts away from her. The psychologist told me I had done something really good for that girl." Like, what? In another entry, he wrote how he wanted to stop killing and actually wanted to be caught, but that he just couldn't stop doing it. These entries just give us a glimpse into his mindset and just the horrors in his mind. Now, all of this made one thing clear to authorities: Miguel was a serial killer. As the investigation unfolded, names began surfacing, names of women who had disappeared after spending time with Miguel, dating all the way back to 2012. One being Amairany Roblero Gonzalez, who disappeared when she was 18 years old. After high school, she took the admission exam for the National Polytechnic Institute, the same university that Miguel graduated from, but she didn't get in. Her parents, Cecilia and Mario, both working, offered to support her so that she could study instead at the Technological Institute of Iztapalpa. Her family describes her as happy, playful, and having a lot of goals for the future. She enjoyed listening to music, singing, watching movies, playing soccer, and going on runs. On Wednesday, August 1st, 2012, she was just days away from officially beginning college. That morning before going to school, she told her mom, Cecilia, that she would be home late because after her college prep classes, she planned to stop by her high school to pick up her graduation photos. She began her day at 9:50 in the morning, where she arrived at her college prep classes, and then at around 1 p.m., a friend asked if she wanted to leave with her, but Amairany said that she had to go pick up her graduation photos, just like she told her mom. This was the last time that anyone saw her. Her mom, Cecilia, came home from work at around 8 p.m. like she usually did, but Amairany wasn't there. She should have been home between 4 and 6 p.m., so where was she? The family tried calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. They got so worried and they went out looking for her. That night, they were out late searching for her. They searched the high school and the local clinics and the hospitals, but they just found no sign of her. The next day, Cecilia didn't go to work so that she could continue looking for her daughter, and she actually went to Amairany's prep classes as her first stop. The school confirmed that Amairany had been in class the day before, so the next step was to confirm if she did make it to the high school to pick up her graduation photos, but when she got there, that's when Cecilia learned that she never made it. So something happened between her college prep classes to when her friend asked her to hang out to never making it to the high school. The family kept searching and they found out that there were two security cameras near the school. Those videos could have shown where Amairany went after school, if she left alone or if she met someone, but getting access to the camera footage was complicated. Bureaucratic delays caused a month to pass before the footage was even officially requested, and by then it was way too late. Since the cameras erased footage after 7 days, that meant that the only possible lead that they currently had on Amairany's whereabouts was gone forever. Which is just insane. Like, why is there a bureaucratic process to get security footage? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're telling someone, hey, my daughter is missing, can I see the footage of her final moments? They should just give it to you without a question, without a doubt, without a pause, without a beat. But the fact that it took over a month to get this footage, knowing that the camera footage just erases after 7 days, is unacceptable. It's just disappointing. Now, not only this, but authorities reported her age wrong in her missing person flyers. Some said that she was 32 years old and some that she was 21, when in reality she was 18 years old. Initially, authorities even told Cecilia that she probably went off with a boy and was going to come back later, perhaps even with a grandchild for her. Like, why would they say that? It's so frustrating in how many cases we've heard where authorities just brush off missing persons report and just like to claim that girls run off with boys. Like, yeah, I'm sure that does happen, but to tell a family like, oh, she ran off with a boy and she's probably going to come back with a grandchild for you, that is just insane. So the family began their own investigations and they learned through Amairany's phone records that she and a man named Miguel were texting. Her family had no idea who this was. They had no idea about any Miguel. When authorities identified him and questioned him, he said that yeah, he did know Amairany and that the day she disappeared, he was going to go with her to pick up her graduation photos, but he said that she took too long to meet him, which caused them to argue and he left. So now the family knows Miguel was perhaps the last person to contact her, and Cecilia immediately suspected that he was lying, but nothing ever came from it. No further investigations into him were done, and that was that. It wasn't until April of 2024, after Miguel's arrest for the murder of Maria Jose, that authorities contacted Amairany's family again. They informed them that Amairany's ID was found inside Miguel's house among his belongings, as well as her name written in his journals. They also asked the family for DNA samples to test against the women's clothing found in his apartment, and a match came back. Sadly, it was confirmed that Amairany was one of Miguel's victims, but there was no other information as to what happened to her, how she met Miguel, what happened the day she went missing, or how and when she was murdered, or where she is. Amairany's mom says to this day, she doesn't know what happened to her daughter. She doesn't know how he and her daughter met, the nature of their relationship, or what actually happened. And I can't imagine how let down the family must feel. Authorities have not given any further elaboration, and it's just horrible. And I do hope that they get answers soon. And I just hope that Amairany is resting peacefully and that her family gets to give her a proper goodbye. It's just really sad. I wonder what happened to Amairany. Like, how did she meet Miguel and how did she pass away? It's just really sad that the family doesn't have any answers. Another confirmed victim of Miguel is Freda Sophia Lima Rivera. In 2012, she moved to Mexico City to attend university. She had been accepted to the same school that Miguel had graduated from, the National Polytechnic Institute. Her mother, Minerva Rivera, described Frida as athletic and academically gifted, someone who earned top grades since elementary school. Coming from a family with limited resources, Freda Sophia's acceptance into a university in Mexico was a huge milestone, and her family was just so incredibly proud of her. Freda Sophia wanted to get a better education and provide a better home for her family and just a better life for everyone. She was determined to work hard to make them proud. She managed to find a place to live with a classmate, an apartment that coincidentally was owned by Miguel. So he was her landlord. That's how they met. Over time, Miguel and Frida Sofia grew close and they developed a strong friendship. They'd comment on each other's Facebook photos, and Frida referred to him as her dad because of their 8 to 9 year age difference, and seemed happy being his friend. Miguel even gifted her a book. It was called Perfume, The Story of a Murder by Patrick Suskind, which has now also been made into a movie. The book is about a serial killer obsessed with scent who realizes he has no natural odor. To fix this, he starts making perfumes out of disturbing ingredients like dead animals, rotting food, and eventually murdering young virgins to capture their scent. It's a really creepy book, and why Miguel gifted it to Frida Sofia Well, we don't really know for sure, but it could have been his way of revealing a piece of himself without actually saying it out loud. Or it was his way of warning her about what he was capable of. We don't know for sure, but looking back on it, it's extremely eerie that he gave her this book. Freda Sophia's family say they don't know much else about their friendship other than the fact that they spent a lot of time together and again that he was her landlord. It's speculated that they were more than friends, perhaps even in a relationship. There were even some rumors saying that they were apparently engaged, but none of that has been confirmed by the family. A few years after arriving in Mexico City on February 7th, 2015, Freda Sophia disappeared. She was just 22 years old. She was last seen near Miguel's apartment and then she just vanished. Her last Facebook post was on December 7th, 2014, but after that day, she just went silent. Her family couldn't reach her, and growing increasingly worried, they traveled to Mexico City to look for her. Eventually, they even moved there to continue the search full time. But there were just no answers, there was no signs. It was as if she had just vanished into thin air. Miguel reportedly told neighbors that Frida went back to her hometown and didn't hear from her ever again. And that was that. Authorities just didn't look into Miguel any further, despite a few years back being questioned in the disappearance of his friend Amairany, who I just mentioned earlier. For years, her family lived in uncertainty until April of 2024, 9 years later, when Miguel was arrested and authorities finally contacted the family. They asked for DNA samples. Freda Sophia was identified as a victim through the discovery of the human remains in Miguel's apartment through DNA confirmation and corroborating social and geographic ties, all of which pointed towards Miguel being the one who ended her life. He ended up being indicted for Freda Sophia's murder as well. Now, looking back, Miguel posted something on Facebook just 4 days after Freda Sophia went missing that's honestly incredibly eerie. What he posted might have been his way of reflecting on murdering her. On December 11th, 2014, he wrote a poem titled Perfect, and it reads, quote, "With clay I shaped your figure. I ran my hands over your entire body as many times as it took to give you the perfect form. Gently and slowly, I gave texture to your skin. I molded your breasts to my liking with a playful gaze and a flirtatious smile, with the perfect height for kissing you, and the ideal shape for our bodies to fit perfectly when we hug. You became magnificent, at least as far as my imagination allowed. I dedicated so much time to your monument and wandered the world in search of a living replica of my creation. I failed. And that's when I realized something important. An artist needs real models to connect with their soul and draw inspiration from reality. I understood that perfection doesn't exist. With so many possibilities and combinations, it's impossible to have certain virtues without giving up others." That poem is just incredibly eerie. Now, something else that Miguel posted that was very creepy was on his 31st birthday, 8 months after Frida Sofia was reported missing. He wrote another poem, this time titled I'll Miss You. And this poem honestly seems like a confession to murdering Frida Sofia. It reads, quote, "A while ago, I watched you die. You died buried beneath tiny shards of glass. Your skin was stained with blood, and your body turned a deep scarlet red. Covered in blood, I placed you on an altar and wept at your feet. I decided to stay with you, or rather with your lifeless body, hoping that at any moment you would open your eyes. I would have gladly died at your feet. For a moment, I believed you'd run to me with open arms, ready to embrace me. But that didn't happen. I thought you'd take my hand, but you never did. I even imagined you'd lean in and give me a shy kiss when I stood beside you, but that kiss never came. It was all in my mind. I kept running. When I was just a few feet away, I stretched out my arms and hugged you. The joy I felt was overwhelming. I held you tightly and kept crying from the emotion, but it didn't take long to realize that your hands didn't move. I felt your body, stiff and cold. I touched your back and felt nothing but clothing. I touched your neck and it was nothing but stone. To confess my love to you over and over again, to hear your voice one more time, to feel nervous again, just because you were by my side, I longed for all of that. I remember the days when time itself felt like my enemy whenever you were far away. My fear of the sentinels vanished. In fact, I forgot they even existed. A sense of bliss took over my body, and a strange warmth washed over me. I knew I loved you. That's why I ran. I didn't want you to leave again. I thought you were so close, but only later did I realize just how far away you really were. I know that was kind of long, but just reading that poem and just thinking about how he was reflecting on what he did to Freda Sophia is just so insanely creepy. The timing that he wrote this, the imagery, the way that he describes her body, it's just too specific to ignore and it's just really unsettling. And the fact that he shared this poem publicly is even more disturbing. I wasn't able to find more information about when Freda Sophia's remains were laid to rest or if they were cremated, but I just truly hope that her family was able to give her a proper goodbye, something that they were unable to do for 9 long years. I hope that Freda Sophia is finally at peace, and I just send my deepest condolences to all of her loved ones. It's just shocking how police didn't initially question Miguel when Frida Sophia first went missing, when he had just been questioned about the disappearance of his other friend. It just doesn't make sense why police wouldn't be like, huh, how weird. Like, we just questioned this guy for the disappearance of one friend. Now the person who rents his apartment and his friend is missing. Like, maybe there's some type of connection here. It's just crazy how police just didn't connect those dots and how 9 years passed without answers. The third confirmed victim of Miguel is 32-year-old Viviana Elizabeth Garrido Ibarra. She was an industrial bioengineering graduate from the Metropolitan Autonomous University in Iztapalpa. She was last seen on November 30th, 2018 after leaving her workplace at the ARJ Control Laboratory. Viviana was reportedly seen saying goodbye to a female coworker at a bus stop near a metro station, approximately 165 feet away from the metro entrance. But Viviana never made it home and no one ever saw her again. She was reported missing by her family right away, and her husband and her 9-year-old daughter were waiting for her to get home, but she never did. They never got to say goodbye, and there was just no sign of what happened to her or where she went after saying bye to her female coworker. Cameras inside the metro station weren't working, and the public street cameras outside weren't facing the station. So there was just no way of knowing what actually happened to her. And on top of this, authorities were just really dismissive, saying that she likely just left on her own, that she needed space, that she just wanted to get away and would return later. Again, it's just so frustrating how police tell families this so often, how they just dismiss people's disappearances and just love to claim that they're just a runaway. Again, not all police do this, and this is not the case with every single disappearance, but it is something that happens very often. Now, after Miguel was arrested for the murder of Maria Jose, it's believed that Viviana also fell victim to him because he was working at the same lab as her during that time. So they were coworkers, and sometimes they would walk to the metro station together after work. According to coworkers, Viviana was one of the very few people who was actually nice to Miguel and who actually ate lunch with him. Viviana's sister Juana and her family never stopped searching for her. They marched, they posted flyers, and they demanded that the metro get working cameras inside and outside to prevent other women from also going missing in those areas. 4 years after she disappeared, her family painted a mural in her honor and just to keep her name and her memory alive. They needed to make sure that authorities just didn't forget her name and just brush her case under the rug. And after Miguel's arrest for what he did to Maria Jose, Viviana's family began demanding answers and proper DNA testing on the human remains found in his home to finally confirm whether or not he murdered Viviana, to finally get closure as to what happened to her, and to finally get to say their proper goodbyes. Sadly, it was confirmed through DNA that partial remains found in Miguel's home belonged to Viviana. After so many years of uncertainty, they now knew that Viviana fell victim to Miguel, like Amairany and Freda Sophia. After his arrest for the murder of Maria Jose, Miguel was later indicted for the murders of Amairany, Freda Sophia, and Viviana, and was placed in preventative detention to await trial. Now, their families are waiting for authorities to give them more information, to locate the rest of their loved ones' remains, and to further investigate into what actually happened. Like, how did they end up here? Although he was only indicted for the 3 murders, it's believed that he may have murdered 20 to 30 women. Some of their identities are not known, while others are, like Karen, who disappeared in 2012. She was studying to become an industrial pharmaceutical chemist at the National Polytechnic Institute, the same one where Miguel graduated from. And Karen actually ended up working with Miguel at Orphan Labs. He was actually her boss. At the time of her disappearance, Karen had just turned 21 and she actually had a boyfriend who knew that Miguel was interested in her. And he even suggested that Karen keep her distance from him. He just gave him a bad feeling, but it was clear Karen had no interest in Miguel. She was happy with her boyfriend and she kept things cordial and kind with Miguel. After all, he was her boss. On Saturday, December 1st, 2012, Miguel and a few coworkers planned a birthday get-together for Karen. The party took place at Miguel's apartment and several of them including Karen, ended up spending the night there. The next morning, Sunday the 2nd, at around 6 o'clock in the morning, Karen woke up and said goodbye to the rest of the friend group and left the apartment with Miguel, who offered to walk her to the metro station, which was just a couple of blocks away from his apartment. He offered to walk her there to be kind, to be a gentleman, just to make sure that she got there safely. But Miguel didn't come back to his own apartment until about 1 p.m. When he finally returned, some coworkers who were still hanging out at his apartment asked him where he had been. After all, he had been gone for quite some time. Like, he literally left at 6 in the morning to walk Karen to the bus stop, and he didn't come back until 1 p.m. Now, Miguel casually said that he had been doing other things, and at the time, no one questioned this. But everything changed the next day on Monday. Karen's family showed up at the lab asking for help. They hadn't heard from her, and they knew her coworkers at the lab had been the last people to see her. Her coworkers told them what they knew, that they had seen her over the weekend to celebrate her birthday, and that was that. After not getting in contact with Karen, the family decided to file a missing persons report. Her family searched and searched for her, but they didn't find any sign of her. Until a few days later, when Karen's body was found near the same metro station Miguel said he dropped her off at. She had been asphyxiated and had bruises on her face, and her cell phone was missing and was never found. Even though the investigation into Karen's death was closed by authorities, her family still had no idea who did this or what actually happened to her. Like, what happened from 6 in the morning when her coworkers saw her leave with Miguel to 1 p.m. when he came back to his apartment. It just didn't make any sense, and the family just had strong suspicions. As for Miguel, it just so happened that he was actually fired from Orphan Labs a month later in January of 2013, but it's unclear whether or not that had anything to do with Karen's death. Karen's family was just left in the dark until April of 2024 when they saw Miguel's face in the news. He had been identified as a suspected serial killer, and after seeing what was found in his home, they strongly believe that Karen fell victim to him. While she has not been officially ruled as one of Miguel's confirmed victims, the fact that they worked together, the context of Miguel being interested in her, but her having a boyfriend, the timing, and her being last seen with him strongly suggests that Miguel had something to do with her death. It's just crazy how police didn't initially question him when Karen first went missing and then when her body was found. Like, literally, witnesses said, "We saw Karen and Miguel leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. He said he was going to walk her to the metro station, but then he didn't come back until hours later, and then her body was found near the metro station." It just doesn't make sense how police didn't make that connection. Now, another woman believed to be one of Miguel's victims is 36-year-old Claudia Andrea Aguilar Sanchez, who went missing on December 27, 2019. In an interview, Claudia's brother Angel shared that his family suspects Miguel may have killed her. Claudia and Miguel had worked together years earlier at Orphan Labs, and after some time apart, their paths crossed once again when Miguel got a job at a lab inside the Angeles Pedregal hospital where Claudia also worked at. That was his last place of work, and after the two reconnected as co-workers, they eventually started dating around October 2019 and were together until she went missing. Claudia lived in Mexico City with her mom and some other family, but around Christmas time in 2019, they all went back to their hometown to spend the holidays together. On the 27th, Claudia returned to Mexico City because she had to go back to work at the hospital. When she arrived, she called her mom to let her know that everything was fine, but later that night, Claudia called her mom again and this time said that she wasn't feeling well and that she would call her tomorrow. Angel remembers his mom saying that she sounded off, like something sounded off about Claudia, that she just sounded cold and distant. After that, no one was able to get in contact with Claudia. Her family kept trying for days, but she never picked up the phone. Now, what was strange was that during those days, she still appeared to be active on WhatsApp. It showed that she was online, but she just wouldn't reply to anyone. On the 30th, Angel decided to go with his mom back to Mexico City to figure out what was going on. It just wasn't like Claudia to just go completely MIA. When they got to her apartment, the front door was actually unlocked. At first glance, everything seemed clean and in order. But when Angel walked into Claudia's room, things just felt immediately off. There were towels on the floor near the door as if they were put there to cover the gap under the door, and he says that the smell of a decomposing body immediately hit him. Then that's when he saw that his sister was on the bed, lifeless. He says that there were more blankets than she usually used on the bed and that one was brand new. The plastic wrapper it came in was balled up in the corner of the room, which just didn't make sense to Angel. Claudia was extremely tidy and she just would never have left the garbage there. He also started noticing more weird details, like her keys weren't in their usual spot. He immediately just knew that something unusual had happened. When authorities got there, they claimed that Claudia died of natural causes, specifically cardiac arrest, and stated that she died on the 27th, the day that she stopped communicating with her family. Now, Angel didn't want to be disrespectful to the authorities, but he told them that they were wrong. First of all, her phone was missing, which now made sense to them as to why her WhatsApp was showing that she was active but not answering. The person who did this must have taken her phone and was still using it. Her ID and her debit card were also missing. And later, he found out that someone actually withdrew and spent money on her card after her death. It all pointed to something bad happening, to someone ending her life. So Angel kept going back to the authorities, asking them to investigate further, but at one point, he was actually threatened by the police and told that if he didn't stop instigating, he would be thrown in jail. A gun was even pointed at him. Can you imagine just trying to get a clear answer as to what happened to your sister and then getting a gun pointed at you and being threatened by the police? It's just really disturbing. The police told him that Claudia's death was a natural death and that was that. Case closed, and to not return. But Angel has never believed that Claudia's death was natural. He says that he just wants the truth. Authorities didn't even question Miguel, Claudia's partner at the time. Now, after Miguel was arrested, Angel and his family asked if anything found in Miguel's house belonged to Claudia. Again, they just wanted answers, they just wanted the truth, and they just wanted closure. Unfortunately, as of today, they have yet to get them, and they may never get the answers that they're looking for because earlier this year, on April 13th, 2025, Miguel passed away before going to trial. That morning, coincidentally the same day he was supposed to attend a hearing in his case, Miguel was reportedly intoxicated from medication and asleep when he fell from his bunk bed. He was then taken to the hospital where he later died. The official cause of death was listed as a severe contusion from the fall, followed by cardiac arrest. Now, just 3 days before, Miguel had actually called Maria Jose's sister, Fernanda, who I mentioned earlier. He called her and taunted her, telling her that there were more victims, much more than the 6 to 7 victims being reported in the news, and that he didn't regret anything, and that what he did, quote, satisfied him. And he even laughed when Fernanda called him a killer. It's just evil and disturbing that he called Fernanda to taunt her and just to harm her even more.
Y al final le dice, no se arrepiente de lo que le hizo a mi hermana y mucho menos a las demás víctimas. Es una burla. Es una burla. Y otra le dije que él era un asesino y lo cual él soltó una carcajada. No, no se me hace increíble que cómo pudo haber conseguido mi número. O sea, no solamente es mi vida la que corre riesgo porque digo, si yo respondí la llamada y si me está monitoreando, no. ¿Confesó algo más en esa llamada? Que eran más víctimas, que no solamente eran 8 o 7 las que dicen en las noticias, sino que son más.
It's just crazy that Miguel died and just took all his secrets to the grave. That is, unless authorities continue investigating him and just get answers as to how many victims there are, who they are, and why he did this. During Miguel's time in prison, which was less than a year, Erendali Trujillo, the lawyer for Maria Jose and her mom Cassandra, tried getting those answers before he died. She was one of the few people who visited Miguel in prison. Erendali went in with a team of experts to build a psychological profile of him, hoping to prove he was dangerous enough to warrant the maximum sentence, which would be 116 years, and to get him transferred to a high security prison. Now, she remembers Miguel's demeanor during the interviews as being calm and polite. He spoke to her with respect, and she could tell that he was educated. She also said that he idolized serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy, and told her that he would talk to her and reveal everything in exchange for a book about serial killers. So she did end up giving it to him, and he did end up telling Erendali that he had killed over 30 women, some in Mexico, some abroad. However, she says that she doesn't believe that number entirely, saying that killers like him love to brag and just want to be famous. She said that Miguel would even ask himself why no one was sending him fan letters in prison like the killer killers that he looked up to. It's just absolutely sick. Like, he wanted to be like these other serial killers. He wanted to be famous, and he wanted to be known. Erendali said that Miguel wasn't all that smart and only got away with his crimes for so long because the Mexican authorities just failed to do their jobs properly, not because he was smarter than anyone else. In the end, his psychological profile revealed that Miguel was narcissistic and extremely dangerous and a risk to other inmates. That's why he was actually kept in a restricted part of the jail and was mostly isolated. Erendali said that Miguel looked physically worse every single time she went to visit him, that he smelled bad, that he had a very strange and just like odd body odor, that he had lost a significant amount of weight, and he was kind of just deteriorating, and even told his family to stop spending money on his lawyers because he just knew that he was never going to get out of prison. His sister Claudia actually visited Miguel in prison as well. In an interview, she said that no one in her family could have ever imagined that Miguel would be capable of doing something so horrific. To them, he was always like the calm one, the smart one, the one who had accomplished the most. She described him as peaceful, well-spoken, and just completely normal, even in the last moments she saw him before everything came to light. Claudia also said that she was the only family member to go visit him or even try to talk to him. During one visit, she told him directly that if he really was guilty, if he really did do this, that he just needed to confess to everything for the sake of the victims, for the sake of their families, for their own mom, and for herself. She begged him to just tell the truth. She said that everything's already over for him, so it was just time to tell the truth and just get everything off his chest. Claudia didn't really share much more about how that visit went, but it seemed like Miguel didn't really care or like listen to what his sister was saying. We know he was proud of what he did. So yeah, it's likely he didn't care about what his sister said or about how this affected his family. In the end, there was no trial, no formal sentencing, no day in court where the families could look Miguel in the eye and demand answers. Instead, it all ended with a suspicious death in prison and just so many unanswered questions. How many victims were there in total? Where are their remains? Why hasn't DNA testing been done on the remains found in his home? Did he use his knowledge of chemistry, perhaps acids or other substances, to destroy the bodies? Why did he target these specific women? Where are the rest of their belongings? What connection did he have to the other victims? Why didn't authorities investigate Miguel even as people around him, his co-workers, and some of them his own partners, kept disappearing over and over again? How did they not connect the dots? Even after Viviana vanished and her co-workers suspected Miguel was involved, why didn't the authorities dig deeper? Not only that, but why didn't anyone connect the dots in 2020 when Miguel actually caught the attention of authorities? There's just so many questions. Now, a complaint against former Mexico City prosecutor Ernestina Godoy was filed accusing her of ignoring clear signs about Miguel for years. According to the report, authorities had identified him in 2020 as a suspect who murdered women near metro entrances. They knew where he worked, where he lived, and they even knew his phone number, but still they didn't act upon this. Why was that? There are just still so many unanswered questions, and Erendali is now working to make sure that this case just doesn't disappear. She's pushing for a full investigation into the woman authorities believe could also be Miguel's victims, hoping to finally bring closure and just answers to their families. She's also demanding an independent autopsy to confirm Miguel's identity, since some families fear he may have faked his own death, and to also actually verify his cause of death. On top of that, she's calling for an inquiry into whether someone inside the prison gave Miguel access to the victim's personal information. It's just still unclear how he got access to that information. Erendali also wants to investigate how Miguel was committing these horrific acts. She doesn't believe he killed his victims inside his apartment, given how small it was and how easily neighbors could have either heard something or smelled something. She believes that he had a different apartment, maybe a storage unit or something along those lines where he actually took his victims and murdered them. As we can see, there are just so many unanswered questions, and until they are answered, there's just no real sense of justice or closure for the families. Again, it's believed that Miguel had 20 to 30 victims, and like I said at the beginning of the video, some are unknown. But 4 more victims likely linked to Miguel are Norma Elena, Cynthia Vanessa, and Laura, whose ages on the screen are how old they would be in 2024 after Miguel's arrest. I wasn't able to find further information about them, but if any details details do come out or how they might be connected to Miguel, I will definitely let you guys know. Now, there is one more possible victim that I was able to find a little bit more information on. Francisco Hernandez Maldonado. He was Miguel's co-worker at his last place of work, which was again the hospital lab. He was 26 years old when he was last seen in March of 2024, and he was missing for a long time. But then he was actually listed as located by the state of Mexico's missing persons database, but it doesn't clarify if he was found alive or dead. There are no more details, and Mexico City's prosecutor's office hasn't said anything about the disappearance of Francisco and whether or not Miguel was involved. Just some people find it odd, like this was Miguel's coworker, he went missing, like what are the odds again? It's really heartbreaking for the victims' families who just may never get answers, but I truly hope they do one day. And I just hope that Erendali is able to give them that through her investigations, and like I said, I will be sure to update you guys with any new updates on this case if and when they become available. It's just truly scary knowing that those who went missing were in some way connected to Miguel, and to know that you could be friends, co-workers, or even romantically involved with someone and still never know who they truly are. Miguel was Maria Jose's neighbor. Miguel was Karen's co-worker. Like the fact that he was connected to these people in kind of like an intimate way and still did this to them is just horrifying, and that they had no idea he was this evil person. Imagine just thinking like, oh, my coworker's going to walk me to the train stop. Like that's so sweet. Like he's trying to be a gentleman. And then in turn, he does something evil. It's just scary to think about what they went through in those final moments and how confused they must have been as to why this person that they knew was doing this to them. It's just really horrifying. And again, like my heart just breaks for Cassandra and Fernanda, who had to witness this horrific thing happening to Maria Jose.
Que nos dé justicia, pero también exijo justicia por quienes estuvieron implicados en las anteriores carpetas desde donde dejan operar a Miguel, porque tenía 12 años asesinados. En 3 carpetas tengo entendido que él está mencionado como testigo, como sospechoso, y tan no trabajaron que pasaron 12 años y llegó hasta mi hija. Mi hija era una niña de 17 años, mi hija se quedó en su casa, mi hija se murió en su casa en la seguridad del lugar más tranquilo aparentemente.
These victims just deserve so much more, and I just hope that the families get answers and can say a proper goodbye to their loved ones. And again, just my deepest condolences go out to them. And I had just never heard about this case before, and just hearing about how he might have killed 20 to 30 women, it's just horrifying to think about. And it's just crazy how I'd never heard about it before, and how he just recently passed away. I just want to remind you guys to stay safe, to be cautious, and to always listen to your gut if it's trying to tell you something is wrong. We just all have to look out for each other and just be careful out there. If you guys haven't watched my last video, I talk about what happened to Emily Pike, whose case is actually one of my most requested. She was a San Carlos Apache teenager who ran away from her group home in Arizona after reporting SA multiple times without anything being done. Then, 2 weeks after she ran away for the last time, her dismembered remains were found in the desert. Her story is just so important to share, not only because it remains unsolved, but because it highlights a huge crisis impacting Indigenous communities. You guys can click on the upcoming screen to watch her case along with another past video. Also, if you guys aren't subscribed to my second channel and you guys just want to break from true crime, or you guys just want to listen to something fictional, I will have that link down below. I have a second channel where I talk about mystery and thriller movies. Lastly, if you guys are looking to become a Familia member, you guys can join my YouTube membership below for early access to my videos and bonus non-true crime videos. Plus, stay tuned for a brand new version of our newsletter for exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. Thank you guys again so much for being here and for just being so supportive and just for helping me spread awareness on these very important cases. Like I said, I will keep you guys updated if new information comes out about Miguel. And yeah, I would love to know what you guys think about this down below. Stay safe out there, familia, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, everyone.